Yo, what up, barflies? You already know who it is. It's Big Dan. Rodan, I'm coming to you live from the 215, your comic book connoisseur, your sommelier of sci-fi and superheroes, here to welcome you to the Blerd Bar. My barflies, how you doing?
Butterflies,
One more
butterflies,
time.
butterflies.
Last time. That's right. I'm in control of the sound, and I'm not by myself, even though we are remote. I'm going to
Remote.
pass it over in the order that I see on my screen. K Sparks, talk to him.
K Sparks.
Yo, it's it's K Sparks from the West Side of Philadelphia, coming to you live from the office, aka don't have one yet, aka no aka Brimless Assassin. Just came up with that off the top of the head,
Hey.
and I'm gonna pass it on to the cob the carburetor.
The carburetor.
Ooh. Mufasa.
Yo, stop. Are you done? It's me, QC. Also haven't came up
Bars.
with a name yet, but I'm gonna use QC for now. I am Queen Anti-Flex. I'm the video game Ventress. I'm Sony's executive assistant with executive privileges. I am your favorite support character with boundaries, and I'm coming at you live um, in my room. And I'm not alone. It's not
Mm,
just three of us here.
mm.
Um, can you speak to us, Jayhawk? Are you there?
Yo, 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 yo,
Jayhawk,
yo,
are you
homie,
there?
yo.
Oh boy.
Last descendant of Yasuke, sub overdub for all anime, salsa dancing ninja, stay on his toes, got a sake flight ready to go, or some ranchada. It's your boy Hawkins Hanzo.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. We are here. And listen, man, I wish we could be in person. Currently, I'm on the rest and recuperation side of things.
On the mend.
On the mend,
Mm.
because being over
See,
You're on the edge of
the
glory.
it's like, see, guys, I told you guys, Dan didn't die. He was
Not the edge
just
of
gone
glory.
for a little bit.
the crazy part,
No one said he died.
small tidbit. I thought I was going to die on my way
Mm.
to the ER. It's crazy.
It's always
No,
like that.
like I had 80% of the symptoms of a heart attack, and it was a
Oh my
pinched nerve.
gosh.
Oh no,
I didn't know that.
you
No,
didn't tell
I'm
us
sorry,
that.
You did not
I
say
didn't
that
set that
part.
up.
You left that part
It,
out.
You said you had a pinched
For our
nerve.
own safety, he left that one out.
but it was 80% of the symptoms, right? And turns out they're also the same symptoms of a pinched nerve, like when it flares up.
Oh,
So I'm sitting there
Interesting.
in the ER for like 4 hours. And I'm like, into the third hour, I realize I don't think I'm dying.
I guess I'm alive, huh? Damn.
It was either that or I was in the first level of hell and didn't realize it. So it was just like, I guess I'm okay. Because
Like,
I
oh, I get
kind
to
of
keep
thought
this
it.
debt? That's
Yeah.
cool.
And I was like, oh. Then the doctor walked in, and for like 30 seconds, he just like pinches my shoulder down to up to my neck, and it was like, yeah, you got a pinched nerve, and walked out. He's like,
Is
you
it because he pinched you?
no.
Tomato, tomato, tomato. This is
No,
how we're starting off.
that's how we started. But yeah, it was real weird, and I was just like, I don't want any more to do with this, knowing that I would have to pay a flat fee of $150 after my insurance covers the rest. So I'm like, America's
150.
great.
That's your copay?
Uh-huh. At least in the ER.
ER is very expensive.
Doug, let me tell you, I was in Temple Hospital for literally 3 to 4 hours because I also had something wrong with my shoulder. This was many moons ago. And the doctor came in and did exactly what you described. He moved it up, he moved it down. He asked, "Does this hurt with each motion?" With each motion, and then he was like, "Yeah, you have a partially torn rotator cuff." And then he walked out. And then I didn't have insurance back then, so he's like, I got the $1,500 bill in the mail, and I was like, he was there for three
So
seconds.
that
I,
tells me he's either the most fired doctor ever or he needs to be fired. Where
You
it's
saw
like you did
house.
three things
right,
and already
Yo,
exactly.
this
right.
nigga, and I'm pretty sure he got
Hey, here's some
paid
painkillers.
thousands for that 30 seconds.
Yeah,
And I'm out here
yeah.
struggling.
But I waited hours for
Yeah,
that.
waiting
Right.
hours. And this man spent less than 5 minutes in my room. Was just like, get you take two of these, call me in the morning. I thought I was
That's why
dying.
healthcare should be free, and
One hundred
Are we
and
percent.
getting into
doctors
hot
should
takes
be
already?
and doctors should be government workers.
Well,
It should work for the
I
government.
don't know
I don't know
about
about
that.
that part. I can't
I mean,
entirely.
if it's gonna
Yeah,
be free,
If it's
I
going to
can't
be
either.
somebody
free,
has to. If it's gonna be free, who's gonna pay the doctors? The
we already
government, right?
paying the doctors. We pay taxes, and that goes. Never mind.
Yeah, but if it's
This is not this episode.
It
it
is this
is.
episode. It's all
I
about
guess
hot
it
takes.
it quite literally is though. Let's
well,
go.
uh,
Let's get into the healthcare
before we
system.
jump in, Barflies, this is another episode, the redux of If I'm Bugging, Tell Me I'm Bugging. I think we've done this, this is our third time doing it? I
I was
think
about
it
to
should
say
be a
this might be our
staple.
third.
I
I'm
feel
never
like it should be a
bugging, so I don't know
staple.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm
Yeah.
never bugging.
You've always been here, Cop. You never left. So, we're going to throw in a bunch of hot takes, see how we feeling. Apparently, as you can see, we already can see how we feel about the healthcare system in America. Are we continuing with that topic, or are we going to just move
You
on?
know, I mean, you're the one that started the healthcare conversation.
No, I
I
was
feel
just
like.
giving a status on how I
Right.
was. I wanted to check in
Oh
on
yeah, we're
everybody
glad you're
else,
good.
but
We're glad you're okay.
Yeah, are you feeling healthy enough to move
yeah,
on,
I feel
or,
like
Glad
we're
you're
fine.
good.
All right. So, who's got a hot take for us, or I'm gonna pick somebody?
Pick somebody.
Pick somebody. Cobb, you got a hot take?
What the heck? Why me?
Because you looked away from the camera.
I
That's
was
how
saying
good.
like, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking like, man, like, I don't have hot takes, and I mean that in the most honest way, where it's like, I don't really have opinions that I think. I just have opinions, man. Like it's not like intended to provoke anyone or antagonize anyone. It's just kind of like how I feel, man. And it's not my fault that it's usually true and correct. So I don't really know how hot of a take it is if I'm saying things that are like either very well known or I will refuse to allow you to argue with me.
You gonna say it or
Because you
no?
can't.
Are you gonna say?
I mean,
Yeah,
I just
like,
need the preface. Just need the preface that,
that
I
was a
don't.
big preface.
I mean, a hot take.
Like,
Saying that healthcare should be free is not really a hot take because I do feel most, especially people that would probably be watching us and people around me would probably agree with that. So I don't know how hot of a take that would be. Um, a hot take that I have on like the subject of even like money is, I believe that uh I don't think that it's that unusual that, service workers, like folks that work at Target, for folks that work in the service industry, specifically the retail industry, I don't think that it's unusual, or I don't think that is wrong to even suggest that they should make um, uh, as much money as, say, like, a doctor or a lawyer. I think that that's quite. I don't think it's ridiculous or preposterous to suggest that people that provide services in retail should get paid or any less important than someone like a doctor who goes into, when you go into the office, they throw your arm up and throw your arm down and then just decide that you have this fractured or misplaced bone in your body. I kind of see them as like equivalent. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I think
I
that,
think that's a hot take.
Definitely a hot
I
take.
think
But
Only
that
I don't
because
agree at all.
Yeah.
But
only
you say you don't agree.
because
Of course, you don't agree.
education is not free.
that part.
Public education or education
Yeah.
in you mean like grade education,
To
grade school
become a
education, or
doctor,
Specialist education.
well, no, well that's my. I'll further that by well, first of all, okay. Well, first of all, I'd further that by saying that yes, in that case, not even just in that case, just in general, and independent of like that point you were about to make, education should be free. Like if I want to pursue the medical field, then I shouldn't have to pay money to do that.
sure.
So if education should be free,
Yeah, I
but
don't disagree
regardless
with
of
that.
whether education is free or not, which I 100% agree it should be, that does not change my perspective that retail workers should get paid as much as any other job that we consider to be a high skilled job. Um,
I
because
disagree.
if you're providing a service, of course you disagree. You always disagree. But yeah, my hot take would be that I think that uh, people that work in the labor fields that we consider to be like low skill labor, personally, I don't think that there's such thing as low skill labor. But for in that so-called field, I don't see it unusual that they get paid as much as someone that has a master's degree or a doctorate.
Hmm.
And there's one.
And for her to say
And
she
with
had
that,
no
y'all have a
hot takes,
blessed
Well,
night,
well, hold
everybody.
I'm
on.
gonna go. I think I'm gonna go. For someone that said they don't have a hot take, wow.
I mean, you inspired me with
Sure,
your story about the doctors, man.
because I mean, let's be honest. Uh,
I think so.
on the
Okay,
job
I'm
training,
sorry.
real quick, on the job training for retail workers is not 8 years of dissecting and learning the internal body of a human, and then thus writing a dissertation on it after you've done all of that.
Okay. You
And
said that that's not as what? It doesn't. That's not that they don't have
they're
to
not
do that.
there's no equivalent there where you can have 40 hours or less of training in a retail job versus you know 8 years of specialty training to learn the ins and out of a human being.
Well,
And
retail workers do have to learn the ins and out of a human being by working with human beings. And who's to say that even if being a doctor requires retail workers have that's a skill, right? That's a skill that maybe some medical professionals might need to, take some classes on since they like to do that. Why don't they dissect that and knowing how to work with people or talk to people? But even if it was true, because I'm not going to be that
soft
crazy to
skills
say,
and
I
the human anatomy are two different things.
Right.
Very
No,
much
fine.
so.
They could be different, right? I'm not making the argument that these things are not different things that require different skills. But my point is like, say, even if it were true, and I'm not going to be that crazy and say, well, dissecting and going to school for 8 years is the same exact thing as taking a 40-hour online training. No, they're not the same thing. But even if that were true, that this is how much it takes to become a medical, like a doctor, why does that determine your quality of life and your livelihood and your ability to provide for yourself and your family? Why does that mean that they're more than someone that provides some other service that takes however 40 hours of training? Like why is that the determinant that they should get more?
Two things. Two things. I
Well,
think there's a difference with saying they should be paid as much as a doctor versus they should be paid a livable wage. Now, should they be paid a livable wage? Absolutely. Should they be paid as much as somebody who learns the inner and outer workings of the body and potentially have the power to kill folk? Um,
Or
I
save
don't
folk.
think that's equivalent exchange. Like, I
wait,
don't think that's
how do
equivalent
we
exchange at all.
skip save and get to kill?
Hmm?
How do we skip save and get
Yeah, I
to
don't.
kill?
Josh went to kill folks. I that
How, so if you so there are a ton of true crime like documentaries where like the doctors have just been going around killing folk. Sure, yes, their main job is to save folk, but if you're not trained properly, or even if you are trained properly, there's also that sense where like there's two sides of every coin,
Wait,
and nobody in Target is going to kill people off of the stuff that they learned in the training of their orientation.
hold
all right.
on. Time out. Flag on the play. Time out. I got. So wait, you. So essentially, because I was with you for a while,
You had me in the
but
I
first
see
half.
I see what he's
are
saying.
you saying, are you saying that because they can kill us, we should pay them more?
Is the risk, are you
Is
saying
that
the
what you're
It's
risks are
the
saying?
high? The risks
knowledge.
are
It's
high?
the risk. Yes, high risk, high reward. Like
Mm,
it's not just that
okay.
they're killing us.
So
They're
they're
also
blackmailing
they
us,
they are not just killing us, and they're not supposed to be killing us. They are supposed to be saving us. I'm not just like
right?
that's beyond. That's besides the point. The
We
point
just got to
is
make it
their
worth their
training.
while. Is what you're saying.
But my problem, and then this is the last thing I'm gonna say. But my problem with that statement of like killing and saving and the high risk, that could be argued about. There are plenty of people in positions that do something like that or very similar and don't get paid a lot. So that metric of like who deserves more money is not even like full and true because there we
Well,
can
then
make the
who are we
argument that
talking about?
teachers
Because
we can make the argument like low
you
skill. I
specifically
mean,
said like service people. Like
but we can make the whole
it sounded like you're
argument
talking about
about.
Walmart.
But we can talk as low as we consider Walmart folks to somewhere in the middle or low, like teachers. Teachers essentially have one of the biggest responsibilities in this world, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
get paid anything. So this idea of like
100%.
risk or how much you're putting in or saving lives, whether literally or like metaphorically, like we don't
Sure, but
follow
I
that in
also
this
agree
country. So
that
that's
teachers
not
should be
accurate.
paid as much as a doctor. Like, so
No,
like
but I'm
that's why I'm
saying,
saying like
Right.
where are we cutting
So
the line? Because I don't
right.
disagree about teachers
The
being
problem is,
paid
where is the
more.
line? But the idea is that like as long as a service is required, that service worker will be needed. So just like a doctor will be needed as long as people are getting sick, or as long as people have children, there will always be a need for doctors. And maybe that's why doctors get paid so much, not just because of the training, but probably they are the ones that make the training as long as and extensive. It's not like God didn't do it. Like the molecules or the cells, and somebody determined that a person should go to school for 8 years to become a doctor. Somebody made that. As there are healers all over the world, there have been doctors all over the world that didn't have formal training, that still saved people's lives,
Real
that were
quick,
still valued.
real
sure.
quick.
Just like the farmer is valued, just like the cook is valued.
Yeah, real quick.
Nobody is
Sure,
valued
I'm out.
more than anyone else. No, that's a no.
Sure, I'm out.
Is that false? Is that not? Is
I'm
that
out.
fake?
All right.
You can't
So
just be out
no,
of a
no,
hot
no.
take
Hold on, hold on,
conversation.
hold on. The problem is, I think the confines of your hot take have expanded
Exactly.
and has kind of ballooned into something else.
Into what?
Rather, let me finish.
It's not what you started off with,
It's
I
but
not where
started off
okay.
by using
where
the
we
most extreme
started is not where
example.
we are now. But I wanted to
Sure we are.
give Ken the opportunity because Ken's been waiting to make a point, and before the train left the station, I just wanted to say, Ken, what did you have to say?
I do have to tell you, the train
It did
has left
not
the
leave the
station.
station.
Actually,
It did not leave the
uh,
station.
It's
If we're
gone.
talking about the
no, no,
t-shirt,
no, not your train. The brain train. I completely forgot what I was
Oh,
going to say. It's not on you.
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not on you. But no, in general, I don't believe that it is true that someone who's doing manual, not any manual labor, I'm talking about Walmart manual labor. There's difference between manual labor in, uh, I don't know, a factory or something of that
Oil
nature.
rigs.
Then not to diminish it to
But it is
this,
diminishing it.
but quite literally stacking
It is
boxes
diminishing.
and stocking shelves. No, but what I'm trying to get at is it's well, quite frankly, it's literally not the same. And the reason why it's 8 years is because one, there's capitalism. They just want people in school longer so they can pay more money into it, and that's why it's as expensive it is. But the other reason, the more practical, well, the reason that you would hope it would be, is that I don't want a doctor who studied for 2 months. I want somebody who was studying for a
And where
very
did you
long
learn that?
time and had to go through a lot
Where
of
did you
rigor.
learn that eight
Where
years
did
was
who learn that?
enough time, and not like say 15, and 2 months is not enough? Like, where did you learn that? You learned that based on this general idea that eight
Oh,
years is enough.
that's not
So you
something.
have to learn that from somewhere.
That's no, that's not something
You
I
have to. How do
learned.
you know?
That's not
We
something I
learned
learned.
that 2 months is
So
too little, and
so
eight
essentially,
years is enough.
not
That might have been
necessarily.
all the
And
doctors
the
who
reason
only
why I
had
say
2 months
that,
of training who were killing folk because of
There
lack
are
of
doctors that
training.
have 8 years of
so
training that be killing folk. So like, what the most if they're considered doctors and kill
What are the
folks, that means they
percentages,
went the eight
Kyle,
Alicia?
years.
What are the percentages? Let
Kyle,
us know the
The percentages
percentages
of
of the
doctors that
people with
have
let me
8
ask you a
2 months of training
years
that
question.
kill
that
people.
have been killing folk
Wait, you're
by
telling me
accident.
that doctors
Let me
that
ask you a
had
question.
2 months of training and killed folks is higher than the doctors that are considered doctors by the board? It's more than them.
Do you not believe that? Do you not believe that to be the case?
First of all, in order to be labeled a
Do you
doctor in
not?
this country, you have to
So
have
you didn't
had
answer the question. I'm out.
I,
I
I
already said
asked
I'm
you.
out.
I
that
asked you a
Okay,
doctors that
my
direct
had
bad.
two.
I'm
question. Do
out.
you
No,
not
I
believe that to be the case?
wait. You want me to make a statement based on that? I believe that the numbers would be
No, I want you
higher
to.
for people that are considered doctors by the board. The amount of people that die under their hand is more, obviously.
So, what is your point about the 2 months versus the 8 months? I believe your point was who determined this. I don't know who determined this. I wasn't the person who created this. The only reason why I believe that should be the best case scenario is because that's what the people who are in that field
Right,
determine.
right.
So if I'm trusting them when I need them to save my life, you could study for as long as you want, dog. Study for 40 years if that's what it means that you actually save my life. I don't care how long you study. But on the other side, if it quite literally was 2 months and they were having the same result, I would not care.
You would not care.
The issue, I would not care if it was 2 months and that was the standard and that's how long that you had to study. But being as though it's not, I'm going to trust them to say, to do what they said was the appropriate amount of time. Because, quite frankly, I'm not a doctor.
I feel you can, and the reason why I gave the most extreme example of like a Walmart worker and the on the other side of the extreme, the doctor, like what is considered one of the most honorable jobs and respectable jobs, and what we consider
Mm-hmm.
to be one of the least respectable jobs. I gave those extreme examples for a reason, and I mean the same for everybody in between: the teacher and the doctor, the babysitter and the doctor, the crossing guard and the doctor. Like the range doesn't actually matter. I just use the most extremes for drama, but it seems like the farther along the range we go, the more we sort of understand, like the teacher, okay, the teacher should get paid as much as the doctor, but the teacher is not paid as much as the doctor. That's the reality. So we have already shown that the people who do valuable work, we determine who is valuable and who's not. We see it every day. Because if you can agree that teachers don't get paid as well as they should, then we have to be able to agree that it's true that we don't actually pay people based on their value to the world, right? To human beings,
Yeah.
right? At least in a survival sense, we maybe value people based on money or capital, not based off of like skill and
Mm-hmm.
ability or years in school,
Sure.
because it takes like freaking therapists 7 or 8 years to get their degree, and they get paid about as much as teachers. So it has nothing to do with how much time you went to school. It has nothing to do with whether you're helping people or not, because there are people. If we're talking about doctors and lawyers getting paid all this much, why aren't we talking about medical assistants and CNAs that get paid pennies, many times doing more work, and working with people more than doctors? These doctors who don't know how to talk to us do. Yet we somehow determine that they should get paid not just less, but significantly less. When my whole question and my whole point was, who actually determines the value of another person or the value of their work, especially if the work is needed? Because at the end of the day, we complain about Walmart workers, but we shop at Walmart and we expect our stuff to be rung up, and we complain when they're not moving fast enough. We complain when things are out of stock. We complain when things are all over the place. And we saw this especially during the pandemic, when them workers was not there, right? When them lines was long, when our food wasn't on the shelves, and we're like, where was they at? They're essential workers, and all of a sudden now, right, when we really find out that we actually need these people, but now it's almost like we
Mm-hmm.
forgot about the pandemic, and we forgot that these people provide services that we require. Yet we it's proof that we do not determine pay based off of the amount of help or the work that we do, because so many people would be getting paid more than doctors
Sure.
that don't. So I don't think it's about
One
like
thing I would,
school
yeah.
school time or anything like that. And that's my hot take.
One thing I
But
would like to, one thing I would like to remind us of is that the people who would be arguing against that probably aren't in this room. You're arguing against them, but I would rather that you talk to Ken or Dan or
Y'all just
Josh
fought me for
about
like the past.
how they think and process.
Y'all just fought me the
You know what I
past
mean?
20
Because
we
minutes.
disagreed
I
with
just don't
you.
want
I don't.
I
That's
That's a
all.
fight.
yeah
That's a
we
fight
just
where I come
Not,
from.
it's not a fight.
you just
If we disagreed with you, and the reason why is because we see it differently.
mm-hmm.
We still
Josh's
value.
face isn't even in the camera anymore.
It is.
He
I'm
left.
looking. He's right there.
Oh, word. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dan.
We're not going to linger on this. We spent way too much time on this one.
Right.
But
We ready for the next one?
yeah, I mean, to that point, just to wrap it up, it's literally that we see it differently for each role in society. And we value doctors and teachers in the same realm. How, unfortunately, we don't control pay rates. Schools get public government funding, doctors get private funding. That's why they get the money that they get, on top of the healthcare system being a scam. So we'll move on from that. On the next podcast, not the Blerd Bar, we'll talk further about how society has screwed us over by just determining our value. But please tell me we got
Thanks,
a
Dan.
pivot here. A nice,
That was well done.
yes.
Now I'm gonna call
Yeah,
on
we absolutely
somebody.
got
Oh,
it.
are you? Go ahead.
Um,
Go for it. Oh yeah. Let's do that.
so Jayhawk, what's your hot take?
The the sauce in your voice. I need you to, man. The neck move.
My hot take is that Swarm is not that far off. The show Swarm is not as far fetched as I think one might think.
Can you explain to the
Yeah,
viewers what, like, the
Oh,
break that
synopsis
down
of
just a
that?
little bit.
Okay, so Swarm is about a super fan of a fictitious uh, superstar
Beyonce
who will
archetype.
do
We ain't scared.
Niger.
who will do
Mm-hmm.
almost anything. Some might say anything um, for the superstar. Um,
Yeah.
and
I think you could drop that almost.
hmm? Oh yeah,
I said I think you could drop that almost.
um, and I think between what's it called, groupthink and internet trolls or internet thugs, I don't think that it is actually that far off. Like if we're continuing on the path of like kind of what goes on with like cancel culture and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and or just dumb stuff happening because somebody sees a TMZ article, like
Mm.
I don't think it's that far off.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually don't think it's that what you're referring to is cancel culture. I think that's stan
Oh
culture.
yeah, yeah,
And I
definitely.
think stan culture is just as dangerous as cancel culture. And the reason why I say that is it's coming to the point where it doesn't matter what this human being is doing as long like I enjoy their music, I like their aesthetic, what they have done makes me feel good. Therefore they can do no wrong. And the wrong that they did do that I acknowledge is wrong ain't wrong enough for me to actually care. So I think that stan culture is and that's above like choosing whether or not you're going to continue to watch the Cosby
Mm-hmm.
Show. Which hot take, I do watch the Cosby Show on occasion, but that is more so talking about whether or not you feel that anything that that person has done is justified, and even if it's not, I don't care. Y'all leave them alone. It's not like, and then it gets to whataboutism, which is a whole nother subject we can go into. But yeah, I think that Swarm is deadly accurate about the possibilities of what stan culture can
I
turn into.
think that stan culture and cancel culture can be two sides of the same coin.
Hmm.
Tell me more.
So like stan culture is like if you are positively for somebody. Cancel culture is if
Mm-hmm.
you are giving a person negative attention, generalizing.
Yeah.
And I can see I can see it being dark sides of like the same coin. Like she's a
Okay.
super
I
fan,
see what
so
you're
like
saying.
she does all the stuff that she does,
And then cancel
and
culture is just a bunch of super haters.
Yeah.
so that's kind of what
The
I mean
super.
when I say
Super
that.
haters.
But
Super haters?
Hmm.
That's what
super
cancel
hate.
culture is?
That I believe that's not this episode because we could talk about cancel culture, but we don't have the
That
time.
sounds like a hot take.
No,
Yeah, that sounds like a hot take.
That's-
it
I was like, that is
is
this
this
episode.
episode.
Dan, this is the second time you said that's not this episode when it totally is.
Um, see, that's
like you're
not my hot
gaslighting
take
us.
that I have prepared. That's not the one that I have prepared. But to that point,
Gotcha.
I don't think it's a possibility. I believe it's happened multiple times throughout history, and especially
Mm.
in modern day history, where stan culture has gotten that dangerous. Um, but
Right. And if you remember where the term "stan" culture came from, it came from the Eminem song
exactly,
"Stan," and what was that was all about a super fan
off.
who ended up
Yeah.
killing his fiance because of Eminem.
Mm.
Wait, did that is that I mean, I know
Not
Eminem
because
has
of
a
Eminem.
song called
Yeah.
Stan about like, but I thought
Hmm.
I thought he calls the kid Stan because he's a Stan, and I kind of assumed that Stan had already existed
No,
before that song.
Well, Stan was the character's name. I
Yeah.
think it was a personification of
and I don't think it
what a
was
Stan
the
is.
guy's actual name, but
Yeah, his name was Stan. Like, hey
in
Stan,
the
Mr.
some
song,
Stan.
but it wasn't the name of the real
Yeah,
fan
yeah.
that had did it.
So I think
Oh
what they're
yeah, of
saying is that
course.
really happened, but the guy's name wasn't
But
Stan.
I mean, what the boy who shot Nixon, not Nixon, Reagan, right? Wasn't it because he was listening to he saw Jodie Foster or something?
Jodie Foster.
Yeah, like he was just like a super fan, and it drove him to the point where he was like, I'm gonna try to kill Reagan. Like there's,
I don't know this story.
yeah, I, I don't have time to. I'll provide links after
Selena.
this. Yeah,
But
Selena, yeah,
Sure.
but
well,
Selena's a
Selena was
perfect
killed by her
example.
manager, though,
who
right?
wanted her to be like,
Who
yeah,
wanted to
Yeah.
be her?
My question, I mean, I agree with that statement about like stan culture and so-called cancel culture are like this. They're similar in they're similar, where we're sort
Mm,
of jumping on someone or using someone is a lightning rod for something. So
mm,
in cancel culture, so-called cancel culture, the person that is being thrown out is sort of like just like this sort of lightning rod or this sort of symbol, right? That we're putting all this into, while maybe stan culture is sort of like the same way. Um, I do think that
they're both negative forms of groupthink. That's how I feel about it.
I got you, but I feel
Neither
like
side of it is positive to me.
yeah,
hmm,
I would agree with that. I would agree with what cancel culture has become is not what it was intended to be. Or I don't even think cancel culture was the term. I think cancel culture was named for this super um what's the word I'm looking for? This super like righteous level of accountability that's being applied to other people in ways that no one in real life would apply to anyone who they actually knew. What I am not saying is that people shouldn't have consequences for their actions. What I am saying is that cancel culture has become this thing where it don't matter what you do after you've done what you've done, whether you've changed, whether you say, "Look, I used to think like this, but honestly, I don't think like that anymore." It's all of that. It's like I don't believe you, and people have the right to not believe you, of course. But it becomes this thing where it's like it feels better to me to believe that you're terrible than to actually try to and not only that, it feels more dangerous to try to admit that I think that you've changed because of the amount of people who will come at me on the internet because I think that it's
It's a
possible for
form of
somebody to change.
narcissism.
What cancel culture has turned into, it is absolutely a form of narcissism. But that's not to say accountability
Right.
shouldn't
But
happen.
accountability is not, we're not saying to cease cancel culture and then accountability goes out the window. No. You commit a crime, go to
Right.
jail. Right? Like that's
Go
how
to
we look at
jail.
it.
that's not what
Please.
I don't. That's a hot take.
What, if you commit a crime, go to jail?
I think is that your hot take?
No, I'm just saying we're still in the conversation of cancel culture. I'm just saying like
Okay, I thought maybe you were
no, no,
alluding
no.
to your
No,
hot
no, no.
take.
Like if you do something that is by law a crime, go to, stand before the
Really,
courts, jury decides what your fate. But I
really.
believe the internet has become this sense of the kind of became its own morality system for who the majority likes versus who the majority doesn't like. And without sounding too political, like the idea of wokeism has also influenced this further by the idea of like, oh, I kind of got offended. I think I should get rid of you, and I'm going to get my friends to also silence you. And on top of that, this rush of a wave of rather than calling somebody out on it and giving them the opportunity, we just be like, ah, Kevin Hart said this 12 years ago. He must die. Like, and I'm using extreme, but it's stuff like that. The intensity of cancel culture to me is the same intensity for like Josh said, for stan culture. Like, oh, they can do no wrong. They have never done anything wrong. I love them. What? She spit on that lady. That lady should be thankful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, it's wild to me to think
Yeah.
that's the way the brain works. But
So is cancel culture the answer
Mhm.
to stan culture?
no,
Nobody
Is that
said
the
that.
No, it's
solution?
worse when those
no,
two.
Nobody
It's worse
said
when
that.
those two
Is,
people
no,
get
is that the
in the same
solution?
area
And
Nobody
with
we
you.
said that.
stand
no.
because
Also,
no,
I
no, I'm
also I
saying
just
it.
want to say that
I'm asking the question.
like cyber, I think it's more along the lines of like the cyber bullying or the bullying that happens, like doxing and stuff like that.
Oh,
It, like that, it's weird, and it's like it's the dark side of stan culture, I guess I should say.
it's a bunch of niggas with free time. That's how I look at it. I'm sorry. Um, I didn't think our hot takes would go dark, but it is what it is. Whose hot take was that? That was Josh's. Josh, who's the next one?
That was Josh's.
I guess you want to choose who goes next.
That's how we do it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Sparks.
Wait, what about
Okay.
did Dan say
I
his?
didn't have one.
What?
It's not my turn yet.
No, I think Dan's
I'll
going
go
Yeah,
last.
last.
I'm
you
fine with
went
it.
first, Cobb.
Oh,
Then I went.
my bad. Sorry. Hey, Josh, stop it. This has been so long. I thought that each of us kind of gave our own, so I kind of forgot. I'm
Hmm.
sorry.
Mhm.
So mine, I could either go light or dark.
Let's
It
go
depends on
light.
whether or
Let's
not
go
you
light.
think one
Give
of them
us
is dark.
no. Let's do it.
Let's.
We'll make it
He
light,
says he
regardless of
has.
what it is.
He said he has options. I'm just
If you
saying.
make it light, I promise you, I'm gonna make
I
it
do have
dark. I will
options.
make it dark if you make it light.
What kind of Star Wars?
That's a wild statement. But yeah, the complaint that all movies that come out now are either sequels or remakes is bullshit. It's not true. It has never been true.
Mm.
I can prove it to you by my own letterbox. I saw 50 movies in the movie theater last year. About roughly 45 of them were not remakes and were not sequels. There are movies that come out every week that have nothing to do with prior IP. And for the most part, because when you think about blockbusters, right? This year there's going to be about 12. I'm guesstimating, but it's going to be about 12, right? There's about three Marvel movies. There's a Transformers movie. There's Mission Impossible. There's um, there's a few other movies that. Oh yeah, well no, there's Creed 3, right? Think about every other movie that's in the movie theater that has nothing, that is not a blockbuster. There are movies coming out quite literally every week. And then if you look at a year, any year, on Letterboxd, and you go in the Letterboxd, you search by year, and you scroll, there's about probably maybe 100 movies in there. Are you telling me that 100 of those movies are remakes and 100 of those movies are sequels? That's absolute nonsense. So I think what people are bemoaning is that they're getting all the press and the shine. But if you want to have a accurate argument in which we can have a conversation, the way you started is important. So if you tell me everything that's coming out is either a sequel or a remake, I'm going to say no, it's not. Well, they get all the money. That's not what you said. That's not how you started this conversation. So which one is it? That is my hot take.
Uh,
Okay, first of all, I agree with you. I think what you're saying is objectively correct, right? Where it's like you can
Right.
look somewhere and see that hundreds of movies came out, probably just like
Mm-hmm.
nationally, and if we even think internationally, even more, right? So I mean that's correct, sure. So when people make that
Sure.
argument that
Yep.
everything is remakes and prequels and sequels and stuff, I mean, yeah, that would be like incorrect for them to say that everything. But I think like I would hope that maybe when people say that, that they're thinking more so like they're most people sort of, and maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of people when they're talking about media, unless they're a film person, right? When they're talking about film and that kind of media, they probably are just talking about the triple A's, the heavy hitters, the ones that they see commercials for, the one that's everybody is talking
Mm-hmm.
about. Like, because I mean, we kind of, most people are sort of tapped in somewhat to pop culture. So if you're
Right.
not a film person or you're not a person that enjoys film, or takes suggestions from different crevices of the world, then that's probably like your worldview is like everything that I'm seeing that's getting attention, because what's getting attention is what I'm paying attention was what I'm paying attention to. Then maybe that's what
Mm-hmm.
people are seeing, or that's what they believe is happening. They're making this generalization based off of something very small. But I still think this thing that's very small is being projected as if it's the only thing out. Like for me, I feel like I don't know how many Disney and Marvel films are coming out this year, but it feels like a lot. In the grand scheme of things, it's not, right? But it seems
Oh
like a
yeah,
lot
I'm
because
already
that's kind
forgot
of
about that
what
one.
that's what sort of like the world that I'm in is kind of like exposing me to, or I'm seeing a lot of it. So my
Mm-hmm.
assumption is that what the hell is going on with Disney this year? They're just pumping these joints out. Like when reality is like they're not. But I would hope that people, when they make that statement, that
Right.
they're thinking about maybe pop culture.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. When it comes to people's worldview, which you address beautifully, I cannot refute that whatsoever because you can only see what you can see. I'm more so speaking to the falseness of that narrative. But there is a popular studio, and this is not an ad. A24 is pumping out brand new stuff literally every
Yeah,
month.
they're pumping them out.
So is Blumhouse.
Yeah.
The quality of that is, but
Are you not an A24 fan?
yeah. So, I love
Oh,
A24.
I was like,
If A24 comes up, I'm going to see it.
there's a hot take. Like,
Whether or not it's good,
Well,
right, right. No, no, no. See, the thing I love about A24 is the same thing I love about Image Comics in that it's not tied to anything. They do whatever they want. Now, so in the same way with Image Comics, if I pick it up, it could be good, it could be bad. But it's just the fact that the thing that they do really well is their trailers. I've never seen a bad A24 trailer where I was like, I don't want to see that. Whether or not the movie turns out to be good, that's a whole different story.
And you can find that out.
But I'm going to give it a shot because the
You
trailer's
know,
dope.
you can find that out for yourself because I don't go. I don't think I see every.
Well, see for
I don't
yourself.
see every A24 movie, but when I do see an A24 movie, I'm like, yeah,
what's the best A24 movie?
ooh,
Sheesh,
best.
that's hard.
If y'all don't say,
that
And
came
it's
out
y'all don't
recently.
say the film
very.
if y'all don't say the film I'm thinking of, then it's an automatic hot take.
What film are you thinking
Yeah,
of?
what film?
It depends on what y'all say.
No, what film?
Well, no, it doesn't depend on what y'all
That's
say.
not
I
good.
just
That
want to
was
hear what
just.
y'all say. I just want to hear what y'all say.
I think the best one I've seen recently is
I was about to say The Green Knight
and
was
that
probably
Knight
one
was
of my
dope.
the
favorites.
Green Knight was great.
Macbeth was good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the best.
What?
I appreciate Macbeth and I appreciate Shakespeare. I can't do it.
I said which one was the best. I didn't say which one was the best.
Which one was the best to me? I would say Green Knight. In recent years, just because of my brain, I would say The Green Knight.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't remember everything. That was God, the horror movie that old girl was nominated for.
Midsummer
Um,
or
Hereditary. Was that A24?
Yes, that's the best A24 film.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
that
That's the best
is.
one, in my
I can
opinion.
see that argument. Yeah, I
Wait,
can
no,
see that
why did I say
argument
my
for sure.
opinion? That's not. It wasn't intended to be an
Because
opinion.
I was disturbed. So therefore,
They
they
did
did
their
their
job. But I was also disturbed with The Green
Yeah.
Knight. But those,
Yeah,
A24
it was.
It was
disturbing
not
sometimes.
And it was
disturbing.
beautiful.
It was funny.
The one
Interesting. We
yeah
got
the one
someone saying
thing that
disturbing. We got someone saying funny. It's a bit of
I
a.
had
hey
different
man
emotions watching that movie, like
yeah
varying emotions. But
Josh saw
it was
comedy.
very poetic. Yeah, it was very poetic.
Dan,
But
close
yeah,
this
one
out.
thing
What's your hot
A24
take?
does well
close.
is shots. Yeah. So moving on to Big
Okay.
Dan.
My hot take was going to try to be on the lighter side, just because. But
Yeah.
I was just trying to think about how most people's favorite character has a traumatic backstory, and I can't, for the life of me, it takes me more than like 10 minutes of thinking to think of a positive origin story for people's favorite, like the popular characters.
Like the question popped in my head, like, is there a positive start for anybody? Everybody's parents got
That's what
murked,
I'm saying.
or their uncle
If
got
there
murked,
is one, I don't
or
know.
their planet got murked.
I can't think of a positive origin story at all.
I
Were
think
they in
Wonder
a
Woman just
Nazi
got
camp
kicked out,
when they
right?
had mutant powers?
Hers was more of like curiosity, but her origin story was wrapped around like her fighting World War II and her friends getting killed.
So when you say origin story,
Hmm.
do you mean sort of like what happened before who they became, who
Like
like
pre
What
before,
before
was the
their name
catalyst
became
to make them
established,
who they are?
right? Like,
or
Yeah.
their
well, you're
mission,
right.
or their main mission?
You know,
Okay.
I think I thought of one. I don't know if it's my favorite, but there is one, which is The Incredibles. Those kids are a-okay with those parents. Like they have gone through nothing except
The government
for
wanting to shut them
the
down
occasional like
and making them illegal.
nobody died. No one died.
You don't
That's
have to
just called
die for it to
America.
be.
Like
Like,
Right. The government
right.
literally
You don't
told
have
them
to
that they
die.
Yeah.
were illegal.
Oh crap.
once
But
again, hashtag America.
part of, yeah, part of the this isn't a rule, but it's kind of like how it goes. So part of the thing is that the thing that the person was trying to do to you was successful, and therefore you said, "I ain't going through that shit no more. I'm going to become a superhero." And what they went through was not successful, and they won, and everybody was alive, and they had Jack Jack, and it was great, and
I
There
would
was still
I would
that
still
was
conflict.
feel
it.
like
My man's got a super suit back.
if we're talking about origin
You know what
story,
I'm
right, in the
saying?
first movie for The Incredibles, they still go through it. Like his marriage suffers because he doesn't know who he is without his powers. To the point where he lies to his
But
wife.
that's after he's already a superhero. He
Yeah,
was a
he's
superhero, then
been the
he quit
dude
being a
for a minute.
superhero and he tried to get a regular
But
job. That's not his
This is Peter
origin
Parker
story.
having
the
Mary
origin
Jane
of The
marriage problems.
Incredibles is that they made too many mistakes and therefore got superheroing banned and made illegal. He saved a guy jumping off a
I can see
roof.
that argument.
The guy didn't want to be saved. He got sued. Government paid for it.
That guy was full of shit.
You
But
know,
yeah.
untrained
Mhm.
sidekicks wanted to participate and therefore cause millions of dollars in infrastructure damage. I'm saying that there's still
Mm.
a level of tragedy to
Robin.
the origins of these characters when we get introduced to them. I don't ever
Hmm.
see anything take off on a high note. On a high note,
Tragedy and
Trauma.
difficulty, I feel like are two different. I feel like they went through a rough patch, not
I
necessarily
mean,
tragedy.
Mr. Incredible was working a
Just a
nine to
rough patch.
five, got depressed.
Oh, back to Cobb's argument.
No, we're not going back there. We're
What's
not.
wrong with Mr. Incredible working a 9 to 5?
We're not going back there.
I mean, if he's unhappy, if he's unhappy, he's unhappy. Who doesn't, that
Right,
doesn't,
yeah.
I guess one for the pop
not saying
culture.
money wouldn't make him a little bit less
Uh,
unhappy, but he was unhappy. So, but I mean, can we actually? Is it
Mhm.
possible to sort of have a traditional story without some sort of,
a
because I
rise
mean
from the
that kind of
ashes.
humanizes the character, right? Yeah, because I think that's what maybe humans are. I would like to just keep it to Americans. We could say humans as well. Humans sort of appreciate like someone, there being a reason, making sense of
There
it
has to
all.
be a
I think
reason to
we as
fight.
humans we like that. There has to be a reason. It has to like be for
It
something.
just
What
can't
about
be a
Shrek?
hero. He just wanted to be left alone, man.
But wasn't
Excuse me?
Hmm?
I mean? But he wasn't he like very unhappy? I mean,
He was in his
he was
own world
accepting
doing
of
his
his.
own thing.
Yeah,
Until
but
the
he was
Yeah,
government
quite
got
he was
unhappy.
involved.
cool.
Was he
No,
happy? I
was
don't
it the
remember Shrek.
government or did people just show
Well,
up?
wait.
The government moved all the fairy tale creatures to his land.
Dan, let me ask you a question.
Sure, I could flip all of
Clarifying
these, but
question.
let's.
No, I'm just asking for
Mhm.
clarity. Are you saying that you're looking for a hero who had no conflict and no good reason to get into the fight, so to speak?
Essentially, what I'm
They
saying is
just
like
decided to get there.
their origin story has next to no conflict, right? Like I'm not saying punching bad guys as conflict. I'm saying like the reason that they do what they do didn't come from some
Hot take,
yeah.
static, static, cartoon static,
All
not
right,
cartoon static.
cartoon
I
static.
don't know anything,
Go ahead.
but they're bang
Hmm.
babies. They ran into the thing. He got electric powers. He could have literally went on with his life and never told anybody. His mom, who
Mm.
passed away, that was years ago. that had nothing to do with his origin.
Are you
He
sure?
just said, well, it probably had something to do with his psychological
Yeah.
makeup or whatever, but it had nothing to do with his like. It wasn't like the catalyst. He didn't Bruce Wayne it and brood and go somewhere for
You're
years
saying
and
the
stuff like that.
catalyst of his
He got
superheroing
powers.
was not.
Yeah. Same thing with Richie. Nothing happened to Richie. Yes, he had a racist dad, but that had nothing to do with him deciding to become gear. Like he could have
Sure.
moved out.
Like I said,
You know what I mean?
What about the
So
guy who
now
comes
that we're
back
thinking about
from
it,
the
we're thinking
future?
about it. Yeah, it goes back.
He's like Starboy
Booster
or
Gold.
something like that.
Booster Gold.
But like, yeah, maybe it's Booster Gold. He just comes back because he's like lame.
I feel like Booster Gold goes
I
back in time because he was.
hate
Yeah,
Booster
but
Gold. But
isn't it because he knows about the Age of Heroes, and he just wants to be a part of it? Like he's just
Yeah.
bored.
yeah, he's a fraud. Basically.
Well, I mean, he ends up becoming a hero.
Is he a protagonist? Is he like the
I
In
mean,
main?
his
he's
own
a
story.
hero.
Are we
Yeah.
talking?
he's
Are we talking about the
he's
main
less
character of
lovable
the story?
Deadpool.
Less lovable.
So are we talking about the main character in? And I mean, I think that that's what also makes villains good is if we can give a if there's I think that that's what gives even villains depth is if we kind of see, oh, this is what they went
How they got
through
here.
that got
Hmm.
them to where they are now. And I think we tend to appreciate those villains more than just a guy who's just bad just because and there's like no
Mm,
story. And I think maybe that came from this idea of like, well, we want to know a little bit about the person that's saving the day and what pushed
right.
them. So, I mean, I find it hard to sort of even think about like a hero or a protagonist
Hmm.
that doesn't have some sort of tragic or some sort of like
Right.
tribulation, or
Yeah.
some sort of conflict that they had to go through.
And I'm
I
not
can't really
saying
think of
like
one.
negative emotions, right, or like even like feeling sad, because those things exist. Those are human emotions. I'm talking about parents gunned down in an alley. Talking about Uncle Ben,
I
whole
got one.
planet,
That's Shrek.
My
I
neighbor
got one.
Totoro.
or Shrek.
I got one.
You
My
mixed
neighbor
up on Shrek.
Totoro did
Go
not
ahead,
Hot
have.
take.
Ken.
Hot take. Captain America.
Captain America what?
He decided to
That's
join the
true.
war.
That's true.
He decided to take the serum.
But
He
I mean,
decided all the
but
other
why
stuff.
did he
The
decide
only
to
thing
join the war?
tragic about him, because there was a war. He doesn't like bullies, is what he said.
Whoa, whoa,
Like
whoa! The way
you
don't
cannot
first
like
of all, don't
bullies.
quotation and diminish. I understand his name has Captain. It's America in his name, but let's be honest. Steve Rogers as a
I have
hero.
no. Captain America is my
Okay,
nigga.
but the way you did it was
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah,
Well, what I'm saying is, in
Or
terms of
whatever. He was like,
like,
or whatever. He was
no,
bullied or
what I'm
whatever.
saying, like, in terms of like, do you have like, did something happen to you where this had to happen? Did you get bullied in school, so you decided to go shoot the Germans? Like,
Does
is
that
that what
wait? Does that
happened?
matter? Does that matter?
Well, I
All right,
don't
Well,
know
so
that's what the
if he
question
got
is.
bullied in
Like,
school
now
and
I
he
guess that's the
decided
question:
to shoot the Germans.
is
But
the
yes, that does matter
catalyst?
because that's an
Yeah,
extreme reaction.
Is it? You're saying it's an extreme reaction to respond to bullying by wanting to go to
and fight
war? I mean,
global
that kind of
bullies.
sounds. I can see
Yeah,
the correlation. I can see the correlation there
Sounds like
actually
propaganda, but
between someone
yeah.
that
I'm
was
with it.
mistreated.
Like if I'm being bullied in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I decide, hey, you know what I'm going to do about the bullies who bullied me in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? I'm going to fly to Germany and shoot niggas. Like that. That doesn't
that's a bit of a
sound
leap,
like an
guys.
Wait a
appropriate
minute.
That's a bit of a
response.
leap.
Wait a
You
That's
minute.
can
not
say
a.
that's a
That's
leap.
not
It's
a.
okay to say
Wait.
that's a leap.
Wait.
That's not an
Hold up.
appropriate response.
Wait a
It's a
minute.
leap.
Hold.
The appropriate
Wait.
response is
Huh?
just get therapy.
Wait a
Like,
minute.
Now, granted, these niggas
Yeah.
was the Nazis,
Wait.
but
But we're talking about. Wait a minute. But we're talking about. Wait. But no, that's totally incorrect. No, somebody that was bullied as a child is not looking to go back and take revenge on their bullies. We would live in a much better world if that's how things actually
I know.
were, where if
there's
people
a whole
actually
Revenge
took
of the
their anger
I
Nerds
out.
theory
know.
that which is
No, we would
terrible.
live in
We've
a
Yeah.
reached the
we would
end
live
of
in a
this
much better
episode.
world. No, let me get this out because we would
Let
live
her
in a much
cook.
better world if people actually did something about the if someone took their revenge or projected their emotion towards the person that deserves it. We would live in a much better world. But unfortunately, we live in a world where because of the trauma that we have sustained as a child, now we're taking that trauma out, probably not even knowing it, on somebody else. Which is
Are
why
we?
they say that
Wait,
bullies
which side
bully
of you
That's
are
or
the
you
hurt
on?
whole.
people
That's
hurt
the
people.
whole point. We said the appropriate thing is to
Right,
go
that's
to
what I'm saying.
therapy.
So it's not But we're not
Right.
talking about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. We're talking about what tends to happen, what is more likely to happen.
That
So
has
when you
nothing
said
to do
like
with the initial
Captain America,
argument.
if somebody, no, he said his example was okay. It doesn't make sense if someone that was bullied as a kid that they're gonna grow up and go to Germany and blow up the
No,
Germans.
no, no. I
Like
didn't
yeah,
say it
we
doesn't
know
make
that that's
sense. I said that's not an appropriate response.
you said that that's not an appropriate response.
Right.
That's why I said the
It's not
But isn't
that.
appropriate
that what
response is
But
to get
happens?
therapy.
But isn't that
uh,
what? But I'm
right,
saying, but isn't that
understanding
what
that things
happens?
happen and it being appropriate are two totally
We've
different
reached
things.
the end of
But
this
we talking about what's
episode.
real. We're talking about what's happening. That was the hot take was that
Yeah.
I
You don't
don't
see it
see
often.
any,
There's
but a
Yeah.
lot of people are
But
probably
yeah,
in the military. Go ahead.
but yeah, I would say Cap doesn't necessarily have a tragic origin story. He chose
But
all
we
that
can't
in
dismiss
the.
that because we
I'm
can't
not.
dismiss
I'm
that.
not dismissing anything. I'm saying
You
he
just
didn't
said
have a
his
tragic
origin
origin
wasn't.
story.
You just said his origin was not
but that's
tragic.
his opinion
It was
on
not.
a fictional character. That's his
Yeah.
opinion that it doesn't seem that it's as traumatic as
Everything tragic
parents
that
getting
happened
gunned
to
down in an
him.
alley or whole entire planet blowing up as a motivator to be a
But
hero,
here,
to sign up for the government, like to sign up for
Yeah.
the army for a special program that he technically was not a candidate for. Like, didn't even, he just got picked.
and Deku
He,
was just butthurt because he wasn't born with one. But we don't give him the same try. He just wasn't
Oh,
born with it.
he was,
Deku doesn't have a
Because he
tragic
was the
origin
weirdo that
story either.
just because he was the weirdo that didn't get it. We
He
still
does.
sort of.
Yeah.
Deku is another one. There
I
you go.
mean, that's his
Deku
origin
does
story.
not have a tragic origin story. I would say
I
most
mean,
of
in some ways, it kind of is
MHA
though.
doesn't have a tragic origin story. Them niggas
I
just
mean,
signed up for
Deku's
that.
origin story, kind of in the grand scheme of things, like maybe it
I mean,
is, like
it's getting
kind of
tragic
like
now. Like, his early years are very
Yeah,
tragic. But
right.
anyway,
But he chose
but he
that
did
life.
choose that life. To be
Just
a
like
hero,
Cat
he
chose that
chose
life
to
he
be a
didn't choose to
hero.
and
not
ended
have
up
a
getting
power.
frozen.
He
He didn't have
chose
a
to be a
quirk.
hero regardless of whether or not he had a quirk. And there was no
True.
motivator outside of the fact that he just didn't have a quirk. Like, he just wanted to be special. His sense of
Yeah.
narcissism motivated him to be a hero. He was like, I want people to love me,
A
is what I said,
narcissist.
and I'm going to stand on it. We've reached the end of the episode. If you have any hot takes that you'd love to share with us, we'd love to read them in the comments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so. Yeah, and as we always like to say here, y'all have a blessed night. Peace out.
Deuces.
Peace.